Serious, what are some of the creepiest declassified documents made available to the public? Story 1. How about the film Marleon? There was this user on 4chan called UTV who frequented the sports page and made lots of posts. Just normal posts too. Nothing controversial. Anyway, he had a stalker known as the Archiver who would follow and comment on every single post of UTV. After a while, UTV would get sick of these comments and he'd tell them to get lost. But the archiver would just respond to them too. Eventually, he started posting his own compilations of the interactions he had with UTV all over the sports page. His final post was him confessing that the people in his life found out about his obsession and he is now being monitored. But before he goes offline, he wanted to share his film Marleon, a 92-page document of everything he had ever made to do with UTV. And he requested that it be for UTV's eyes only. Of course, that didn't stop people from opening it. Inside were post compilations of UTV's posts superimposed onto 3D models, extensive poems and sonnets, a detailed description of how their life together would be, and how UTV's funeral would pan out. I'm pretty sure there were real-life details about UTV in there as well. Upon release of the document, UTV's only response was ? And he contacted the police and went into hiding. Somebody commented, appropriate response to find out someone wrote about their lives together and facts about your life is definitely just ? Somebody else commented, that's creepy, especially on 4chan. I always thought that 4chan was a beacon of anonymity. It's so interesting to me how quick and random obsession can be. Like this guy essentially fell in love and started obsessing about a complete stranger on the internet who posted what? Sports comments? Like the smallest thing, and this stalker just lost their crap and started obsessing over the guy. I looked up this document and it's so utterly creepy that I could barely make it through a quarter of it. There is a weird eulogy, but there's also a seating chart of what the guy imagines UTV's funeral would look like. I can't imagine doing this to anybody, or anyone ever doing this kind of crap to me. Story 2. Operation LAC biological warfare testing done on U.S. cities. Principally, the operation involved spraying large areas with zinc, cadmium sulfide, which is very toxic. Many who were affected died of cancer, and the testing was never followed up on. Most of the neighborhood's genetic makeup was effed up for no reason, and no apologies were made. Somebody commented, my mom told me one time when she was living in California, they stated they were spraying to get rid of fruit flies and gnats. They woke up and all their fish in their tanks are bleeding out their eyes. And she also had a miscarriage a week later. That story always stuck with me and made me wonder. Somebody else commented, what in the crap did I just read? Someone responded, the reason that insane conspiracy theories can so easily take root, because reality can be so much worse. Somebody then commented their story. So I was born in the Bay Area of California and was a small child when the spraying took place. I want to say it was in 1981 or 1982. My sister was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2000 at 23 years old. She passed away in 2013 after a very long fight. My father was also diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, his in 2004. He was able to beat it. I absolutely think it has to do with the spraying. It literally took the paint off their cars. Nasty, nasty stuff. Frick them. Story 3. Operation Northwoods. Proposed false flag against American civilization's targets, carried out by the CIA and blamed on Cuba in 1962. Thankfully, JFK said frick no and shut that crap down. There's then a bunch of comments. Let's go through some of them. Apparently, JFK even demoted the guy who proposed this on the spot. Thank God. Also, this means that this idea had to go through a long chain of command with many high-ranking people in the government agreeing to it. This is why so many people believe in a 9/11 conspiracy. It surely wasn't the only time a plan of that nature was drafted. Somebody responded to them saying, I've never been one to push the 9/11 was an inside job conspiracy, but I've met and heard enough people who reject it solely because the government would never do something like that, which is baffling to anyone who knows the least little bit about history. Life is cheap compared to money and power. Somebody else then said, MK Ultra, the CIA performs illegal experiments on Americans to try to develop mind control. MK Ultra was never declassified, it was leaked, and the CIA destroyed all documents surrounding it, as all good governments should, just in case. And they let a Canadian doctor molest kids as part of it. I know some of the stuff that happened, but damn, this is way too much. The last comment says, IIRC, they would let some powerful rich pedos abuse kids, then blackmail them with the pictures to receive funds. Story 4. Project Pluto is pretty horrific. The proposed use for nuclear power ramjets would be to power a cruise missile called SLAM for supersonic low-altitude missile. In order to reach ramjet speed, it would be launched from the ground by a cluster of conventional rocket boosters. Once it reached cruising altitude and was far away from populated areas, the nuclear reactor would be made critical. Since nuclear power gave it almost unlimited range, the missile could cruise in circles over the ocean until ordered, down to the deck, for its supersonic dash to targets in the Soviet Union. The SLAM, as proposed, would carry a payload of many nuclear weapons to be dropped on multiple targets, making the cruise missile into an unmanned bomber. After delivering all its warheads, the missile could then spend weeks flying over populated areas at low altitudes, causing tremendous ground damage with its shockwave and fallout. When it finally lost enough power to fly and crash-landed, the engine would have a good chance of spewing deadly radiation for months to come. Somebody commented, "Damn, that's fricked." Someone else commented, "The Russians have been developing hypersonic ramjet nuclear missiles, like right now. I'm not a scientist, but they sound like they're pretty much indefensible." I just honestly don't understand why stuff like this is necessary. Maybe I'm naive, and I totally get if you guys want to say that, but I also don't understand why people would want to harm so many innocent civilians if they truly did nothing wrong. Story 5. There's a list somewhere on the web of the last words of inmates punished by death in Texas. Here's some of them. "Goodbye, warden." Somebody commented, "Holy frick." Some of those comments cut off in the middle. Not hard to guess why. "Thank you for using me." That dash on the end is clearly intentional. One ended with "it's burning." That one is really freaking haunting. That's crazy. One of the guys was cut off when he tried to explain how he was being persecuted because it's a cover-up. He was saying that an officer whom he had killed was in a fit of rage before he ran into him, inmate, and that he only killed the officer in self-defense, but the evidence to prove the officer's state of mind was not allowed in court, and therefore the jury did not have a fair perspective. They cut him off when he was trying to explain this. None of the other guys were cut off from what I've read so far. Crazy. Story 6. This FBI investigation file titled Animal Mutilation. Back in the 1970s to 80s, the media's attention was drawn to some anomalies taking place, not only on American cattle farms, but all over the world. Cow corpses were being discovered in fields, missing organs, with surgical holes in their sides, with no blood. For a brief time, this was passed off as a strange coincidence, but eventually the public got so worked up that the FBI commissioned an investigation. 6 months and $45,000 later, they found nothing. Nothing. No trace of a person, machine, alien, anything. Everyone was left hanging, but strangely it died down. The reports of animal mutilations have simply stacked up since then, and to this day it has been excess of 10,000. Somebody commented, "The removal of cow vulvas and bulldogs caused speculation that weirdos were involved. Didn't know dong was a technical term." I'm surprised I didn't find anything, but maybe this is my own little conspiracy theorist mind, who thinks that maybe because they didn't find anything, the government was actually behind it the whole time. I know that's a pretty typical theory, and hey, maybe it truly was just some weirdos who kept messing with cattle. Story 7. Operation Unthinkable. The plan for the UK and US to launch a surprise attack against the USSR at the end of World War II. Someone commented, "UK, US, and what was left of Wehrmacht, they literally planned to use just defeated Germans to get the numbers they needed. But keep in mind that the military often has multiple plans for things that are not even remotely likely to happen. So it's more of an analysis of what would happen if we did this than an actual operation plan." Somebody commented, "Plan Red, for instance, was a plan for war between the US and the British Empire." Someone then added, "There was also a plan for an invasion of Canada in the early 1900s, in case the US sides with the Germans. Us entering the war on the side of the UK and France was by no means a guarantee at the outbreak of World War I. Story 8. Gay bomb. It was a weapon speculated by the USA in the 90s that, when dropped, would release pheromones, which would make the enemy attracted to each other. Here are some comments from under that post. "I love the idea that the enemy would just stop fighting a war and get their freak on. Let's all at least give it a try." Forgive this stupid question, but is there any evidence that something like this could actually work? Is there a good, reliable place to read about this? I'm actually curious. Somebody responded to them, "From what I understand, it wouldn't do anything as humans are very much not pheromone-based, so at most it would confuse them as to what they got hit with, why there is a strong musky smell from it. Sarge, why does no man's land smell like Axe body spray?" Story 9. There was a declassified Soviet program where the military tried to use rabbits to physically communicate between submarines. It was based on the premise that a mother rabbit reacts strongly when one of its offspring is killed violently, even if the other rabbit is miles or hundreds of miles away. The program involved keeping the mother rabbits at a land-based station and killing the baby rabbits in the submarine. Message content was determined by the frequency and the strength of the reaction from the mother rabbit, which was supposedly dependent on the violence of the death. The documents were declassified a while ago, but not only translated in 2016. Somebody said, just adopted a rabbit. This hits close to home. Somebody else commented, did you get my message? Sometimes people's primitive understanding of science and their lack of overall empathy just truly culminate into some of the most vile and shocking things that I have read. Truly, this story is just so sad and unnecessary for the rabbits to experience. Story 10. Memo from Roger Bulgeley on O-ring erosion, months prior to the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. He essentially predicted and forewarned that the rocket O-rings would fail if the shuttle launched in cold weather. Somebody asked, wasn't he blackballed for this or coming public with it? My dad is an engineer and has an article about this in his office as a reminder of his obligation to do the right thing, no matter the cost. Someone commented, I think he actually regretted not being more vocal about it, because it haunted him the rest of his life. Someone said, FAIK, he never hesitated to voice it, and someone who he tried to report this to simply didn't care. Story 11. Dropout Jeep, a software implant for the Apple iPhone that utilizes modular mission applications to provide specific SIGINT functionality. This functionality includes the ability to remotely push and pull files from the device, SMS retrieval, contactless retrieval, voicemail, geolocation, hot mic, camera, capture, cell tower location, etc. Command control and data exfiltration can occur over SMS messaging or a GPRS data connection. All communications with the implant will be covert and encrypted. Yeah, they have better access to iPhones than we'll ever get. Don't get that false sense of security that your iPhone data is safe from the government. See, I accepted the fact that the government just has my data a long time ago. Let them see my Amazon order for extra strength rash cream for all I care. I feel like that's more traumatizing for my FBI agent than me. Story 12. The NSA A&T Catalog. It contains the list of capabilities which the NSA and other national security administrations have been in possession of and used for the purpose of cyber surveillance. The document was created in 2008 and was made public in 2013. The technology in this document is incredible and terrifying for the idea of privacy. If you think they don't know everything, they do. These devices are everywhere. Could be in any cable, any computer, any phone, anything. Somebody commented, nightstand, portable system that wirelessly installs Microsoft Windows. They went too far with this one. Story 13. The JFK assassination documents never fully being released as they kept getting pushed back. The documents themselves are creepy in the sense of how contradicting they are, but what makes it truly creepy is the full release keeps getting pushed back. Somebody commented, they've got to be hiding something in there. Story 14. How the government made it illegal to expose the government for the illegal things they've done. Somebody commented, when exposing a crime is treated as committing a crime, you are being ruled by criminals. Somebody else commented, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Quote by George Orwell. Story 15. The Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the African American community. Somebody said, had to read this in its entirety for a medical ethics class. The whole class was super freaking depressing, but this study was the cherry on top of the fricked up situation. A little bit of explanation for this one in case you guys aren't fully aware of why this one is so messed up as it truly is. So, this study was done on about 300 black men who had syphilis and about 300 who didn't. They did not ask the men for their informed consent, meaning the researchers didn't tell them what they were doing and why. About 15 years into the study, they were still giving the men placebos for the disease, even though penicillin had come out, a known cure for syphilis. They continued this until about 40 years ago, until after the study had started, allowing countless people to go crazy and die, even though there was a giveable cure that the researchers just neglected to share with them. It is genuinely one of the most upsetting accounts of science in the last century. Story 16. The various times that Nixon almost drunkenly started a nuclear war, but Henry Kissinger refused to act until he was sober. This happened multiple times. We could have been Fallout IRL. Story 17. The WikiLeaks document about Prism and about the smart device hacking methods along with how to set said devices into a false off mode. Somebody commented, every cell phone without a removable battery could easily and may already have this. Story 18. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was subjected to grueling, degrading psychological experiments while he was an underage student at Harvard. Somebody commented, wasn't he an MK Ultra? According to a couple different theories, Ted went through the CIA's mind control program where they used tactics like the administration of substances, hypnosis, electric shocks, and sophisticated psychological techniques. He was also only 15 when he went through these. Well, people can't say if these experiences led him to do the actions he did, or if those thoughts were all there before it happened. Story 19. The creepiest fact is that even the most horrible declassified files are just a small part of the documents that came to light. Too many facts went down the drain. Story 20. Anything involving Japan's Unit 731 during World War II. It was a military, chemical, and biological warfare division that experimented on POWs. Story 21. The Pentagon Papers. They were fairly creepy back when they came out. Somebody commented, what are they about? And OP never responded.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.